Hello everybody and welcome back to the Inclusion Coach. My name's Rebecca and I am your Inclusion Coach. This week we are talking to TERFs. With all the conversation about trans people in the news at the moment and much of that conversation being presented in a gender critical way, I thought it might be helpful to give you some pointers on how to talk to the people who have such strong vocal opinions on trans rights. TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Basically, a cisgender woman who denies the existence of trans people, denies the possibility of people living in any other gender than that which they were assigned at birth. TERFs believe that women's rights are damaged by acknowledging, validating and accepting trans women. And TERFs can be very subtle about presenting gender critical views. The views they present are often very reasonable sounding, liberal, progressive sounding, whereas in fact they are attacking the trans sense of self and safety. In general, TERFs play two trump cards. The first trump card is protecting women-only spaces. The second one is positioning as child abuse, any support for trans children to live and express their gender. TERFs are quick to Davo. They will tell you that TERF is hate speech in itself. Challenged TERFs can become wounded martyrs who are just trying to protect women's rights and make the world a safer place. J.K. Rowling is a prime example of a martyred TERF. So how do you deal with this? As an aspiring ally, how do you push back against somebody who seems to be so knowledgeable, so articulate, and so reasonable about trans issues? If someone starts talking like this, you might think, oh, I disagree with all of this, but I don't know how to argue back. Here's some ideas about how you can argue back. First of all, remember that you don't necessarily need to win the argument. You just need to make your point and not back down from it. Have a few facts of your own in your back pocket. For example, in the last census, the 2021 census, 0.5% of the UK population identified as trans. That is a tiny proportion of the population. How does that represent a significant threat to society? It feels disproportionate, doesn't it? You can use the basic inclusion questions that we've talked about on this video series before. Push back with a, how do you know that? What makes you say that? You could add to that, you seem to have a lot of information about this, but I don't know if it's correct. You could talk about the difference between sex and gender. You could say, I see sex and gender as two different things. I don't have a problem with people who want to live in a different gender expression. You could use the Nicola Sturgeon line, trans women aren't a threat to women, men are a threat to women. Also, men have always found ways to enter women-only spaces. They don't need to present as a woman to do so. 15-20 minutes browsing, picking up some facts, watching YouTube videos about trans experiences will give you some insight that you can use in a debate where somebody is trying to persuade you towards their gender critical views. If you still feel unequipped to enter into that debate, don't just shrug and go, whatever. Don't leave it unchallenged. You don't have to justify your disagreement with them. You don't have to win the argument. Refusing to accept their point of view is enough. Saying that you disagree is enough. Stating your belief that trans people have the right to live as themselves and be welcomed in society rather than being demonised and made to live in fear. Stating that and refusing to back down from that is enough. Your challenge this week? Do some research, 15-20 minutes, just to have a few facts at your disposal so that you can engage in these conversations. I'll put a few resources, suggestions in the comments for you. That's it for this week. Thank you as ever for watching, and I'll see you next time.